Our main story tonight is the IRS. Now, I know that sounds unappealing, but I promise you, if you stay to the end of this, there'll be a very sexy reward. Now, this Wednesday is April the 15th, the day every year when Wesley Snipes pokes his little head out of his burrow and if he sees his own tax return, quickly dives back in. And like clockwork, tax season brings with it an annual gnashing of teeth.
Two dreaded words this time of year: tax time.
It is tax day today. Maybe you're holding your nose while finishing up your taxes.
Tax season officially begins. Ugh.
Tax season. Tax season. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Happy Tax Day, everybody. That's sarcasm, of course.
Yes, tax season is a lot like bathing suit season. You probably dread it unless you're already the kind of person who spends a lot of time in the Cayman Islands. People hate taxes and they hate the IRS. So much so, they can't help but express that, whatever the circumstances.
And this should make you a real crowd favorite. John works for the IRS. We've never had a contestant booed. Well, let me make it easier for you. He works in collection for the IRS. Oh, come on.
What are you doing, Regis? Stop baiting the crowd. Boo him, boo him. Now let's lock the doors and turn off the cameras and burn him. Let's burn the money witch. And to be honest, the IRS have not been good recently at winning people over, particularly this current tax season.
And brace yourself for a rough tax season. Yes, the IRS warning this year will be worse than most for you.
If you need to visit an IRS office, a word of warning: prepare to wait.
A little after 8, the line already snaked across the sidewalk, reaching out into the parking lot.
I came here Monday and I was here from 7 to 4.
And it's only 2 people working inside.
2 employees. That is not good, because if you're in that line, you need help. No one waits that long for something they could fix themselves. It's the same way that you know the people in line at the emergency room at 2 a.m. definitely have something stuck inside their butt. You, corn dog. You, Boba Fett action figure. I've been there. And look, if you're thinking, well, this doesn't affect me, I'll just call the IRS on the phone, well, good luck with that.
Nationwide, only 4 in 10 callers to the agency's toll-free line are getting through to a real person. The number of courtesy disconnects when an overloaded system hangs up on the customer has now reached 5 million so far this year.
That's right. If the IRS's system gets overloaded, it will give you a courtesy disconnect, which means hanging up on you. And you can't just put a nice word in front of an unpleasant one and change the meaning. It's like the phrase politely decline or Care Bears. They're still bears. They'll rip you the apart. They're bears. It's in their blood. Is it any wonder that everyone hates the IRS? Dealing with them is obligatory, it often functions badly, and it combines 2 of the things that we hate the most in life: someone taking our money and math. And yet, tonight, I'm going to attempt the impossible. I'm going to try and make you feel a small amount of sympathy for the IRS, because for a start, it cannot be a pleasant place to work. Just listen to what extra little gifts they get alongside people's tax returns.
Well, we've had everything come in from brown sugar to dust out of the vacuum cleaner to people spreading mustard on the check. Now, that check is processed, but we just wipe the mustard off and send it to the bank.
How matter-of-fact he is. This must happen all the time. Yeah, some people put mustard on the check, some people file their returns inside of a dead fish. One man covered his check in Vaseline and pubic hair. We just wipe it off and send it to the bank. That's what we do here. And it's not just furious mustard enthusiasts taking it out on the IRS. Even state governors have publicly demonised them.
Governor LePage didn't want to talk about the outrage he sparked when he compared the IRS to the Gestapo, the Nazi secret police. But when we pushed him for a comment, here's what he said.
It was never intended to offend anyone.
But you compared them to the Gestapo. Of course they were offended. If you compare someone to the Gestapo and they don't get offended, that's a big red flag. But the public perception of IRS employees as Gestapo-like villains doesn't quite match up when you see what they're actually like. Because on the IRS YouTube channel, there are videos where employees talk about their jobs, and they don't seem evil so much as unbelievably boring.
A data transcriber takes the physical return and inputs it into the computer system for further processing.
You know, you got to know about the budgetary accounting, proprietary accounting.
You're out there meeting taxpayers at their residences, at their places of business. You're conducting interviews on taxpayers. You're investigating their assets. You're out there interviewing third parties looking for assets that possibly the taxpayer didn't disclose to you.
Those people aren't Nazis. Nazis are inherently interesting. Those people are the physical equivalent of Ambien. And look, there is a weird kind of heroism to doing jobs that are that boring. Because not only could I not do their job, I can barely even listen to them talking about it. So why exactly do we hate the IRS so much? Because it's worth remembering, if you are angry about the amount of tax you pay, that's nothing to do with them. That's determined by a vote in Congress, much like declarations of war and how often Orrin Hatch is allowed to orgasm. Not yet, Orrin. Not yet. Now. There you go. There you go. And look, if you think our tax code is too complicated, well, that's Congress's fault too. And you know who agrees with you? The people who work for the IRS, because even they have trouble keeping up.
We looked at how many changes in the tax law had occurred. In last year alone, it was something like 579 changes.
579 changes?
Changes in the tax law.
In 1 year? That's more than a change every day.
Yes.
How do you keep up?
I don't. And I don't know how individuals or businesses keep up.
579 changes in 1 year. The only document that should change that often is the Wikipedia page for Bill Cosby. Oh, what are we now? 32 accusers. 34? Holy shit, I don't know how anyone keeps up. This really should be going above Fat Albert at this point. The fact is, blaming the IRS because you hate paying your taxes is a bit like slapping your checkout clerk because the price of eggs has gone up. It's not her fault. She's just trying to help you get out of the store. That scenario, incidentally, is also my pitch for the Slap Season 2. That's apropos of nothing. But let's recap. The IRS does a difficult, thankless, almost dangerously boring job. And that job has actually been getting even more difficult because of this.
The IRS budget has been slashed in recent years. Since the GOP won control of the chamber back in 2010, the agency's funding has shrunk by nearly 20%.
You can't lose nearly 20% of what you are and be as effective. It's like pretending Zayn leaving One Direction doesn't tear the heart out of that band. Oh, he was 20% of the band, but he was 99% of the soul. It's over, everyone. Jordan has left the Bulls. I don't like it any more than you. But the DNA of the band is broken. And I can't believe I'm the one in this room that cares the most about this. Shame on you. The point is, Congress has slashed the IRS's budget, but largely out of anger, which was not entirely unjustified. You may remember a few years ago there were scandals over overspending on conferences and training videos like this horrific parody of Star Trek.
It would seem, Captain, the no taxions, lack of skilled tax leaders, has resulted in a widespread case of confusion, uninformed taxpayers, high non-compliance, no strategic vision. I'm afraid without a wealth of skilled leaders, anarchy is spreading across the planet like a virus.
Wow, that's depressing. I have seen Star Trek porn parodies less depressing than that. But look, that of course was nothing next to the IRS's big scandal.
A report coming out this week shows IRS officials were targeting Tea Party and other conservative groups when those groups applied for tax-exempt status.
Yes, the Tea Party targeting scandal, where the IRS inundated many conservative groups with questions, sometimes delaying their applications for years. And look, that scandal was not nothing, because while they did target liberal groups as well, those groups were scrutinised to a much lesser extent and made up only 29 of the 298 groups targeted, which is ridiculous. Because if you want to find liberal groups to harass, it's easy. Just Google what was that thing Alec Baldwin was going on about. But the investigation into all this is ongoing, and while current evidence strongly suggests that this was more of a giant bureaucratic f***up than something more nefarious, for the sake of argument, let's assume the absolute worst, that this was deliberate, political targeting. The best thing to do then would be to get rid of the people who are in charge and make some changes to how the agency reviews political groups, both of which have happened. The worst thing to do is what we've done, and that's angrily slash their budget so they can't operate properly. Because remember those long lines from earlier? You can thank the cuts for those.
Between 2010 and 2014, the IRS lost over 13,000 employees. A portion of our workforce over 50 years of age has been growing rapidly during the last several years. We have only 650 employees out of 87,000 who are 25 or younger.
It's true. Most IRS employees are over 50 and less than 1% are under 25. And that does not bode well for the IRS, because a government agency should not have the same age ratio as an Eric Clapton concert. And the IRS's staff is not the only thing that is aging at a dangerous rate.
Some think the IRS has fallen short in their efforts to keep up with modern-day technology. Almost half of all tax data exists on the magnetic tape and cartridge system developed in the 1960s.
That is terrifying. We should at least be using technology invented after an era when it was okay to call a female co-worker toots. But we shouldn't just fund the IRS because we want our information stored on something a little more sophisticated than a fucking duck hunt cartridge. We should fund them because the IRS is one of the safest investments for public money available. According to the Treasury Department, every dollar spent on tax enforcement yields back 6. 6. The IRS sextuples your money. They should make that their motto. Were it not for the fact that Sextuples is already the name of Sandal spin-off most likely to get shuttered by the health department. Welcome to Sextuples, where all you need to bring is an open mind and lots of bleach. Lots of bleach. Lots, that's on you. The problem is, our whole tax system is built upon trust. And if people lose faith in the IRS, the whole system by which we fund everything is in trouble.
We collect $3 trillion a year in a voluntary compliance system. If the compliance rate goes down by 1%, either because people think the chances of getting caught are down, or because they can't find out the right information, or they just get aggravated with us, a 1% decline in the compliance rate costs the government $30 billion annually.
Exactly. The IRS compliance rate is entirely based on confidence, much like Lyle Lovett's sex appeal or Channing Tatum's acting ability. You lose that confidence, everything collapses. And look, I'm not saying the IRS is a likeable organisation, but not everything that's important is likeable. Think of our government as a body. The IRS is the anus. It's nobody's favourite part, but you need that thing working properly or everything goes to shit real quick. And we don't need to love the IRS or even like them, but after decades of us calling them Nazis and sending them mustard, I think they may deserve at least a few minutes of at least grudging acknowledgement of the unpleasant but necessary function they serve. Unfortunately, expression of sincere emotion is not my forte. I'm British. Luckily, I have some serious help tonight. So to serenade the IRS with, if not a love song, a song of reluctant support for their appropriate funding, please welcome Grammy award-winning singer and songwriter, Mr. Michael Bolton.
I could hardly believe it when I heard the news today. Congress cut your budget right in two. I guess you make people angry with the things you do and say, 'cause you make us give our money straight to you. But we need you real bad, though it's clear nobody really likes you. You're the anus of our country, don't you know? Tell me, how are we supposed to live without you? We couldn't functionally survive, no. How are we supposed And though saying this just cuts me like a knife, we need the IRS to stay alive. Yes, you've had f***ups like that stupid Star Trek thing. Tell me, who was it who really thought of that?
Michael, you'll be pleased to know the people responsible are all gone, so...
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Why?
They got staffing problems too.
That's actually true.
Their recruitment numbers are at best a little flat.
That's a nuanced point, Michael Bolton.
Now, I don't want to know just how we get along without them, 'cause you never miss your anus till it's gone. Tell me, how are we supposed to live without you? We cut and cut your budgets till you bleed. How are we supposed to live without you? And how we pay for everything we need? Like Colorado National Park Procurement Assistant Brian Reed.
That's a specific example, Michael. Look, IRS, you're never going to be anyone's favourite agency. You know that. You're boring. You're unlikable. But here's the thing. Deep down, we need you. We need you like we need our own anus. Because like our anus, we may not love you or like to talk about you or even want to look at you through a series of strategically placed mirrors. But deep down, we're glad you're there. Is that not right, Michael? Tell them about it. Tell them.
Now, I don't want to know what life is like without an anus.
Sing it to them, Michael.
Won't you think of Brian Reed?
Know that man personally.
Tell me, how are we supposed to live without you? We've relied on you for funding for so long. How are we supposed to live without you? And how are we supposed to carry on when the only practical way to collect revenue under our current governmental system, pending a significant overhaul of the tax code, which seems unlikely at best, is gold?